Imagine a nation where the keys to the treasury are handed over not for service, but as a formal invitation to plunder. For decades, Nigeria has grappled with a haunting paradox: immense natural wealth existing alongside crushing poverty. When a veteran politician steps into the light to admit that his own class views governance as a license to steal, the foundation of the state begins to crumble. This is the chilling reality behind the headlines of a broken system. In a recent explosive interview that sent shockwaves through the Nigerian corridors of power, a senior statesman voiced what millions had whispered in private. The setting was the high-stakes environment of a national news studio, where the air grew thick with tension. As the cameras rolled, the veil of political decorum was stripped away, revealing a raw and ugly truth. It was a moment of rare, brutal honesty from a man who has seen it all inside the system. The man at the center of this storm is no outsider. He is a seasoned player in the complex game of Nigerian politics. His words carry the weight of decades of experience within the ruling structures. When he speaks of a license to steal, he is not merely using a metaphor. He is describing a systemic cultural expectation that once you attain office, the public purse becomes your private inheritance. The shock lies in the sheer bluntness of his confession. Outside the air-conditioned studios and the high walls of government villas, a different Nigeria exists. In the bustling markets of Lagos and the dusty streets of Kano, the cost of this license is paid in human suffering. Mothers struggle to feed their children while infrastructure crumbles under the weight of neglect. The contrast between the opulent lives of the political elite and the daily grind of the common man has never been more visible or more painful. Corruption in Nigeria is not a new story, but the narrative has shifted from secret bribes to blatant entitlement. The veteran politician pointed out that the current crop of leaders no longer feels the need to hide their acquisitions. They flaunt wealth that is mathematically impossible to earn on a government salary. This shift signals a dangerous new era where the shame of theft has been replaced by the pride of power, leaving the electorate feeling utterly betrayed. The interview highlighted a fundamental flaw in the recruitment process of Nigerian leaders. It is a system built on godfatherism and loyalty rather than competence or a desire for reform. When leadership is seen as a reward for loyalty, the primary goal becomes recouping the investment made during the campaign. This cycle ensures that only those willing to play the game ever reach the top, while those with true vision are systematically filtered out of the process. Governance is meant to be a sacred trust, a commitment to manage the resources of the many for the benefit of all. However, in the eyes of the political class described in the Arise News segment, this trust is a commodity. It is bought, sold, and traded in backroom deals far removed from the sight of the voting public. The result is a government that exists for itself, functioning as a closed loop of wealth and influence. As the statesman continued his critique, he touched on the erosion of the middle class and the desperation of the youth. Nigeria's greatest resource is its people, yet millions of talented young minds are looking for the nearest exit. The Joppa syndrome is a direct consequence of a leadership that consumes the future to satisfy its present greed. When the political class sees governance as a heist, the youth see their country as a crime scene they must flee. The economic implications are staggering. Inflation skyrockets while the currency devalues, yet the budgets for government renovations and luxury vehicles remain untouched. The politician's admission on national television served as a mirror, forcing the nation to look at the grotesque inequality it has normalized. It is an inequality where the elite fly over the potholes that break the backs of the poor, living in a bubble of stolen prosperity that is increasingly under threat. Media outlets like Arise News have become the front lines of this battle for the soul of the nation. By providing a platform for these uncomfortable truths, they challenge the narrative of business as usual. The intense questioning of the anchors reflects the growing frustration of the Nigerian public. Every hard-hitting question is a proxy for the millions of citizens who demand to know where their money has gone and why their lives have not improved despite the promises. One of the most striking points made was the lack of consequences for those who treat the treasury as a personal ATM. The legal system often appears to have two tiers, one for the powerful and another for the powerless. When a politician is accused of embezzling billions, the case often disappears into a labyrinth of endless adjournments and technicalities. This perceived immunity is the ultimate fuel for the fire of corruption, emboldening new generations of leaders. The license to steal is not just about money, it is about the destruction of institutions. When positions in the police, the judiciary, and the civil service are sold to the highest bidder, the state loses its ability to function. The veterans' critique points to a total collapse of meritocracy. In this environment, loyalty to a corrupt superior is more valuable than loyalty to the law, creating a pyramid of graft that extends from the top down. Public reaction to the interview was a mix of vindication and despair. On social media, Nigerians shared clips of the statesman's words, using them as a rallying cry for accountability. Yet, there is a lingering fear that talk alone is not enough. The nation has had promises of change before, only to see the faces change while the system remains the same. The challenge now is how to turn this viral moment into a movement for genuine reform. The politician also discussed the role of the international community in enabling this theft. Much of the stolen wealth finds its way into foreign bank accounts and real estate in London, Dubai, and New York. While foreign governments often lecture Nigeria on corruption, their financial systems often act as the getaway car for these political heists. The license to steal is supported by a global network that values profit over the ethics of where that profit comes from. Governance in Nigeria has become an industry of extraction. Instead of building factories or improving agriculture, the political class focuses on extracting value from the oil sector and tax revenues. This parasitic relationship has stifled innovation and entrepreneurship. Why work hard to build a business when the easiest way to wealth is to secure a government contract that you have no intention of fulfilling? This mindset has poisoned the very spirit of Nigerian ingenuity and hard work. The statesman's honesty serves as a warning to the current administration. You cannot govern a hungry and angry population indefinitely. The social contract in Nigeria is not just frayed, it is non-existent for many. When the people see their leaders living in a different reality, the seeds of unrest are sown. History shows that when the gap between the rulers and the road becomes a chasm, the stability of the entire nation is put at risk. During the broadcast, the guest emphasized that the problem is not a lack of resources, but a lack of conscience. Nigeria produces enough wealth to provide quality education and healthcare for every citizen. The license to steal essentially diverts these essential services into private pockets. Every stolen billion is a school that was never built, a hospital without medicine, and a road that remains a death trap. The human cost of corruption is counted in lives lost. There was a moment in the interview where the guest paused, as if reflecting on his own role in the system. This nuance is important. It suggests that even within the political class, there are those who recognize the path they are on is unsustainable. The question is whether these individuals have the courage to break ranks and lead a new direction, or if the pressure to conform to the corrupt status quo is simply too strong to overcome. The license to steal also manifests in the electoral process itself. The high cost of running for office in Nigeria means that only the wealthy, or those backed by the wealthy, can compete. This creates a barrier to entry for honest, capable citizens who lack godfathers. Consequently, the system reproduces the same type of leader over and over again. The interview was a stark reminder that until the cost of politics is lowered, the quality of governance will remain low. As the Arise News segment drew to a close, the mood was one of somber reflection. The anchors didn't need to add much commentary, the guest's words had done the work. He had painted a picture of a nation at a crossroads. One path leads to continued decay and eventual collapse, while the other requires a radical reimagining of what it means to lead. The license to steal must be revoked if Nigeria is to survive and thrive. But revoking that license requires more than just words, it requires a fundamental shift in the culture of accountability. It means empowering the anti-corruption agencies to act without political interference. It means a judiciary that is truly independent and a legislature that prioritizes the needs of the people over their own allowances. Most importantly, it requires a citizenry that refuses to be bought with a bag of rice or a few thousand naira during the election cycle. The statesman's interview is a testament to the power of truth-telling in an age of propaganda. It reminds us that no matter how entrenched a system may seem, it is made of people, and people can change. However, change in Nigeria has always been hard-won. The political class will not give up their privileges easily. The struggle for good governance is the defining battle of modern Nigerian history, and the stakes could not be any higher for the continent. Critics of the interview suggest that the statesman was merely playing politics himself, perhaps settling old scores. But even if his motives were personal, the truths he spoke are universal and undeniable. The license to steal is a visible scar on the Nigerian psyche. Whether he is a hero or just a disillusioned insider, he has provided a service by bringing this dark secret into the light of day for a national and global audience to see. The words of the veteran statesman remain a haunting echo in the halls of power, a challenge to the conscience of a nation. Will Nigeria remain a captive to those who view leadership as a heist, or will a new generation reclaim the mandate of service? The road ahead is steep, and the shadows of the past are long. However, the first step toward healing any wound is the courage to admit exactly how deep it truly runs.